Greetings, dear friends. Today in the АЛЛАТРА TV studio we have the esteemed Igor Mikhailovich Danilov.
Greetings.
Igor Mikhailovich, we live in a time when technological development is accelerating and technology is becoming deeply ingrained in our life. It significantly simplifies it and makes it more comfortable. Our homes and our cities are becoming smarter, as they say. Robotization also takes place at workplaces, which surely in many ways makes it easier for people to work. And more often it so happens that it completely replaces people. As a result, the negative consequence of robotization is technological unemployment. As of today, we all face a question: what should we do when technology, which seems to make our lives easier, takes away our jobs and our livelihoods? So, today I would like to talk about the difficulties that already exist in today's world and the impact that artificial intelligence will have on our tomorrow.
Artificial intelligence. This is actually wonderful. Let's look at it from the perspective of what benefits it will bring to humanity. Let's begin with a simple thing. Today, even in gadgets, we just start looking for what we need. And at that point, precisely the artificial intelligence starts working and gives us hints, right?
Yes.
Is this convenient?
It forms that very news feed.
It is very convenient. Absolutely right.
It forms what is convenient for us.
And the desired goods we are looking for are immediately offered to us. Moreover, all the offers that are available on the internet are gathered. Later on, there will be more. For example, some topic is interesting to us, which is...
Healthcare, for example.
Let's take healthcare. We won't even go that far. We have a lot of information on this subject. We just have to type in what we are interested in. And again, that very artificial intelligence pulls together all the available information for us in detail. Isn't it convenient? Very convenient. And then there will be more, because progress doesn't stand still. And again, it is all designed to make our lives easier and better. For example, now artificial intelligence is fragmented. It works a little bit here and a little bit there. Well, it makes our lives a little bit easier everywhere, but we have to understand that dozens of companies today are working to create a superintelligence, and they have been working at it for quite a long time. What does superintelligence mean? Superintelligence, my friends, is a single machine with all the information in it, which controls everything. If we take, let's say, 5 years ago, we didn't have such capabilities yet, but they were already working on it. And they were working on it very seriously. And there were no capabilities due to a lack of technical solutions. As experts say, hardware was not quite up to speed. Today, all this is already possible. In other words, we have come to the point where any day now, this superintelligence, well, we will already see its results and benefits for us. And what is the benefit? It's huge. For example, you've touched upon healthcare. Just imagine, there was the pandemic. Many people were sick. Many people encountered it. Many people worried about it. Even healthy people were trying to get a hold of doctors, and so on. But what is healthcare? It's people. People make mistakes. Yes, they are capable of heroic deeds. However, no matter how you look at it, the human factor always remains the human factor. A doctor is seeing patients. He has a lot of them, but he is a human being. And he has a lot of his own problems. But here, he has to switch to helping people, and so on. Does he always have time to get to the bottom of the case? And why there are so many mistakes today in healthcare, friends? It's all because we are only humans. However, superintelligence will not make mistakes. It will absorb the experience of millions of doctors. It will absorb the entire history of healthcare, and it is already absorbing it. Already. It is not absorbing, but has already absorbed a lot. In addition, it will approach each patient individually. That's firstly. And secondly, it will know the entire history of a patient. All the information, the results of examinations, everything will flow into it, and it will accumulate all of this. What's more, it will constantly, as artificial intelligence, as a doctor, will constantly observe a person. What he buys, what goods he consumes, what kind of interests, let's say, a person has, how much stress he has, how much that stress affects him, and so on. In other words, what kind of life a person has and how he lives. Why? Because it will be everywhere. One artificial intelligence will be everywhere. Nowadays, for instance, we have many of them. Autopilot in a car is one device. In gadgets, it's another device. We go somewhere, there is a third device there, while that will be a single system that will absorb everything. It will be everywhere. It's a single center for processing all the information, starting from what you put into a search engine, what you watch, how much time you walk, how much time you sit. This is just an indication of your mobility, or on the contrary, that you don't move enough, right? So a doctor will already be
sort of a book of life.
Absolutely right. And the doctor will receive this information. Is that bad? On the one hand, people will say, how come? This is total control. No, this is total care for us. You know, this is how the best parents treat their children, when there is indeed not hyperprotection, but real care for their children. Not in a slipshod manner, but they really care about what a child eats, how much he rests, that he doesn't overload himself, that he is not too cold. And naturally, you will agree that such a doctor, well, as soon as you start getting sick, he will already warn you, prescribe a medication for you, will let you know which pharmacy it is in, or he will ensure that it is delivered to you. This is really marvelous. Why? Because healthcare will deal more with prevention. We will have to be treated less and less, and there will be just easy methods of prevention. This is already being worked on, and rather seriously at that. Well, many people simply don't know, but it is so. The quality of healthcare will improve many times over. Some people will say, yet, what about surgeons, for instance? Well, we already know that there are robotized systems that perform complicated surgeries. They have already existed for a long time, but so far, a human controls them. It doesn't matter, so far there is a human. But some of those systems already perform surgeries on their own, and artificial intelligence will never make a mistake. Let's face it, we are all humans, and we all know how many mistakes surgeons make. The best surgeons in the world make huge mistakes. Sometimes even fatal ones, let's put it mildly. A robot will never make a mistake.
This intelligence is now being trained, right? People's experience.
Again, just look, for a human, even for a surgeon, in order to see how, for example, a minimally invasive surgery is going on, even if it is an abdominal surgery, doesn't matter. He still has to check the sensors, and he has to turn to the left or to the right, and to look. His attention is too scattered. And he has to immediately focus on his action so as not to make a mistake. A robot will never make a mistake because all sensors are in it simultaneously. Well, for instance, a triad injection. They say there is even such
To draw blood from a vein, for example.
To draw blood from a vein, right. But we often face situations when they either puncture something or fail to find a vein.
Fail to find.
Or something else. A robot will never make a mistake. To put it simply, there are infrared sensors. A robot sees everything and will do it better than anyone else. Moreover, in dentistry, neurosurgery, and everywhere, including that very oncology, whatever we take, a robot would deal with this. Again, even such a banal profession as traumatologist. Nobody can put together a broken bone better than a robot. Why? Because it has an X-ray in its head, so to say. It sees through everything. It will take everything into account in what it will do. Again, it will take into account both your condition and heart rhythm, the level of pain that you feel, whether to add anesthetics or not, and so on. Now, we have started talking about surgery. Surgery is fine, but there is such a profession as anesthesiologist. After all, for example, after anesthesia, especially a general one, unfortunately, sometimes there are severe complications. Why? A wrong dose is selected, or certain factors are not taken into account, or there is an allergic reaction. Well, and due to the factors unclear to people, complications arise. All this will be brought down to zero. Why? Healthcare will become safe. And all this is exactly thanks to superintelligence. So, you see, we have taken just a little area.
Even just for myself, I can say that I was surprised so much that in fact these developments already exist. They are even being tested. Well, for example, this robot surgeon Da Vinci. The developments have been going on since 1980s, and it actually came to people 20 years later, in the 2000s. In the consciousness of some people, under the word surgeon, a completely different picture is still unfolding, that a doctor is standing there hunched over.
Well, yes.
Definitely, they don't imagine surgeries being done remotely, which are already performed now and that 3,000 kilometers away, or where a doctor is sitting in the room next door.
Well, again, you have just noted. A doctor is standing there hunched over, and few people think that particularly complex surgeries last for hours. Yet a doctor is a human.
Of course, sure.
He gets tired, he becomes exhausted, plus he himself has health problems, a forced positional load. This dulls his attention. And there is another general human factor. He may also have problems at home, problems with someone at work. And just like all of us, among doctors, even when a doctor makes some serious decision regarding your health, just like everyone, he also has various thoughts in his head, which distract him. That's where mistakes arise from. This is really so, whereas artificial superintelligence will not have such problems. As you can see, this healthcare will just be of a completely different level. And now, this is no longer a fairy tale. This is already a reality of not even tomorrow, but actually of today. Yet in this case, we have taken only this field, only healthcare. Let's take another field. Which one? Well, for example...
Arts, for example.
For example, arts.
For example, artists. Indeed, as of today, there are already technologies where artificial intelligence already draws according to an available text.
It is provided with a text, and it creates paintings. Right?
Yes, exactly.
Moreover, already today, artificial intelligence is capable of creating a painting that no artist can reproduce. Why? Because in all artistic fields, it will be able to express and do it much better than a human. Why? It analyzes everything, and it is mathematically precise. It doesn't make mistakes. Well, some people will say, and what about self-expression? Guys, as of today, neural networks have artificial intuition and a very broad imagination. Therefore, some people have such an attitude. Well, it's a soulless machine. It's not able to think, to fantasize, and to conceive. It will not catch up with a human. It has already overtaken him. Let's take a simple example. In the year 1989, Garry Kasparov beat a computer at chess when he was already a champion.
A champion?
Right. Yet in the year 1997, a computer already beat Kasparov. But at that time, he was...
the world champion.
Yes, at that time, he still remained an undefeated world champion. As a matter of fact, at that point, the era of domination of a human over a machine already ended. Since that time and to this day, if we look, systems have been developing. Now they beat people even at poker. Well, my friends, if you know, poker is actually more of a psychological game. There, you should know how to bluff and distinguish a bluff. Meaning, use intuition, use imagination, observation, and all the rest. People can no longer win even at poker. Isn't that so?
So it turns out that artificial intelligence has artificial intuition.
Of course, as well as imagination. Hence, let's say, there is an opinion among artists that they are irreplaceable, just like among people of any other specialty. But in any case, a machine will work better. It will be better in any art style. Now, let's take journalism, for example. As a matter of fact, today, machines are even better at writing articles.
Yes, a lot of them. But journalists who write for Bloomberg News, The Washington Post, Los Angeles Times and that very Forbes. And the most interesting thing is that today artificial intelligence already wins journalism awards, and developers say that readers did not even suspect that these articles had been written by artificial intelligence.
That it was artificial intelligence and not a human. Yes, of course. And a reader is not supposed to suspect that. That is wonderful, isn't it? Look how much more interesting, better, and safer our life is becoming. Indeed, just look. Let's simply consider this point. As of today, a human needs... Yes, he can order goods via the internet. They will be delivered to him, and so on. But you have to agree. It is actually more convenient when, for instance, you put on virtual glasses and find yourself in a supermarket. You can walk around and choose any product you like, look at it, find out details about it, and order it. And it will be delivered to your home wonderfully and splendidly at that. Right?
There is no need to go out.
And given a situation like the one we have right now, with the pandemic, and so on, I mean, you don't need to show up, let's say, to leave your house, to be among people and expose your health to risk, correct?
Well, yes, as of today, since 2020, there are already delivery bots, sorter bots, and logistics robots.
There are delivery bots, sorter bots, and everything imaginable. Just look how convenient that is. Again, let's take the roads. There is logistics, especially people who are long-distance truck drivers. These are drivers who drive huge trucks, and they have to be at the wheel for a very long time, delivering goods from one point to another. Yet, there are already trucks equipped with autopilots, where a machine drives a vehicle. Isn't that wonderful? Heavy labor is eliminated, first of all. Secondly, this is safety. A machine will not allow stupid actions. This is really so. Let's just recall. People were vacationing on a cruise ship. This happened not so long ago, and the captain decided to wave his hand to a friend and grounded the ship on reefs. It is inconceivable that artificial intelligence would make a mistake. It is simply unable to make it, because, first of all, it is programmed to ensure safety and perform everything in a timely and correct manner, taking into account a lot of factors. A human is unable to take into account as many factors as a machine takes. Is that bad? Look, what kind of a wonderful future is really, let's say, on the horizon, right?
Perhaps weather forecasters. We will finally have a weather forecast.
Maybe. Well, no. Even a machine will not cope with that. Why? Now we have such a situation
Many factors.
with climate that it's not because climatologists are bad. Here, even for artificial intelligence, it will be very difficult to calculate because everything is changing.
At least there can be some kind of a warning system for people.
Well, the warning system will certainly be better. It will be faster, better, and of a high quality. For example, there is a threat, a tsunami, a massive earthquake, or volcanic activity. When this is already inevitable, then, again, it's very simple for superintelligence to bring those very buses and evacuate people very fast. I mean, immediately. While people are thinking, yet how is it nowadays? A problem arises, one person reports to another, then higher management makes a decision, then they start searching for a way, where to get those buses, how to evacuate, how to make a road. This takes time.
Yes, time is lost.
While these are human lives. And just look how many people die because of our sluggishness and our bureaucracy. Isn't that so? And who hasn't faced this, friends, or hasn't heard or seen such things? Those very fires, accidents, or something else. This is really a problem. While in this case, everything will work much faster. Does this improve and enhance the quality of our lives? It surely does. And what about the quality of goods? There is production, hazardous work conditions, monotonous production work, where a human...
Of course, this also decreases manufacturing defects and increases productivity.
Well, naturally, a human gets tired, right? A human gets tired and begins, well...
To make mistakes at a production site, of course.
Absolutely right.
And sometimes even fatal ones.
Simply because of banal tiredness. While a machine doesn't care, it can work 24 hours a day. What can happen to it? It's just a machine. Even if it breaks down, that very robot will repair it right away. Any program failure, it immediately reboots. And that's it. A machine is working again. Why? Because superintelligence observes it. Sort of a big nursemaid for everyone. Isn't that convenient? So, whatever field we take, this is, let's say, a wonderful future. However, my friends, this wonderful future can only be in a creative society. While the fact that this is inevitable, it is inevitable. I'll give you a simple example. Revenues in the IT sector, well, at least this year, will be more than $4 trillion. Just think. Such a huge pie, worth $4 trillion. In your opinion, how many mouths open at this pie? A lot. Especially if we compare that the entire defense sector, including arms traffic and absolutely all kinds of expenses, costs only 2 trillion. These are worldwide expenditures. Meanwhile, IT is worth 4 trillion already.
This is significant.
Of course. That's why there are those who want to take everything for themselves. And this has been worked on very seriously, thoroughly, and for a long time. As a matter of fact, all this is wonderful. It's both a physician and a teacher. It's wonderful, but in a creative society. While in a consumerist format, there is another side. Why? We have just outlined. This indicates that all healthcare personnel will be forced to look for different jobs. Question: where will they look for them?
Oh yes. That's already a relevant issue today, of course.
Certainly. And why will a person be forced to seek a job? Because we, as consumers, will not go to a human. We will go to a machine, since the quality is much higher and the cost is much lower, right? We love ourselves, don't we? Are we supposed to love the doctor so much as to visit him at a loss to our health and our wallet?
In order to support him.
In fact, we will not act this way because we are consumers just like everyone else. Is this logical? It is. Let's take pedagogy. This year of remote education has shown that people are imperfect. Just for you to understand, the quality of education has dropped by 30%. Why? Because when education is in a classroom, that's one thing. But when it is remote, here a human factor has had an impact. Teachers who were connecting with their children remotely have simply relaxed. They say, learn this on your own, or that, or something
A
else.
temporary phenomenon, yes.
Of course.
We will sort it out later.
A teacher is at home, his kids are running around, something else is going on, and he actually doesn't want to. So everything goes wrong, and the level of education has drastically declined. Is that possible with a machine? Never. A machine will deal with everyone individually. It will give you the education you really need and find an approach to each person. Note that a machine will find an approach to each child individually. Why? Because it is the best psychologist, and it is a better teacher than anyone else. And it will teach any child to the maximum of what a child can learn. Is that bad? It's good.
Already today there are similar technologies.
Yes, there are certainly these technologies today.
Tutors.
They are tested, yes. And a serious replacement of all teaching staff, from the junior to senior ones, is already underway. Universities and everything else will all go virtual, as well as secondary schools. First of all, it's all too expensive. And secondly, it all costs money.
Well, here just program one tutor.
We have just said that they will get to 4 trillion in IT this year, even a little more. But neither healthcare, nor pedagogy, nor anything else was taken into account. Yet, there are a lot of billions in pedagogy and a lot of billions in healthcare. Isn't that so?
And it all flows to one person's hands.
It will all flow to one person's hands, to the one who will be the first to create and launch the super artificial intelligence.
Will it be one person?
As a rule, it's a group. After all, we know history. In history, something is always done by a group, a few people, enthusiasts. Then they start competing with each other. Well, to put it in a civilized manner, and one of them survives. There will be one owner. Why? Because in each of us, friends, there lives L. Each of us is an alpha who aspires to become a super alpha. And those who think they are already a super alpha want to become a mega alpha. They want to become L. And in all of us, there is this L. If not living, then dormant. This is inevitable. Give a person an opportunity in a consumerist format, and this will definitely happen. As of today, it hasn't happened, but there have been many attempts. You and I can go back in history and take a look. Hitler, Napoleon, Alexander of Macedon, whoever we take, it's all a manifestation of what?
Alpha.
A super alpha who aspired to become a mega alpha. A fight for what? For one's own egocentrism. Isn't it so? In the consumerist format. It is really so, and no one will get away from that. So, teachers will be out on the street, and doctors will be out on the street. Everyone will be out on the street. Why? Every profession will gradually be pushed out and taken away. Wherever there is profit, that's where superintelligence will enter.
Well, according to futurists, at least one profession will definitely be very privileged: IT specialists, because of the era.
Well, not one. 3.
Even 3.
They name 3 of them: IT specialists,
Yes.
then lawyers, and financiers. These are at least 3 professions of the future, right? My friends, the first ones on the way out, let's put it culturally, will be IT specialists.
It was unexpected.
Unexpected. Few people know this. But I will tell you what IT specialists face today. Those who started their careers earlier, at least 10 years ago, and were already IT specialists, programmers, they have earned trust. And they are now in demand. People know that. They are needed. They always have work. But as for young people who are coming in, for them, it's already difficult to find a job. There are still a lot of companies that use the services of IT specialists. But there is already a problem. Why? Because today, that very superintelligence, I emphasize once again, it is in dozens of companies. There are large companies, there are smart ones, and they all compete with each other for being the first to create and launch it. So, this system already writes programs better and faster than those very programmers, even the top ones. And a lot of people already see, especially those involved in IT, they see little programs appearing that are supposedly written by people. But those who have access to these codes see that these codes are so logical, they are so perfect, that it is extremely difficult for people to write them. I understand that some programmers now, those who are watching us, will say, "Come on, that's impossible. It's impossible to replace me." My friends, what you use is trivial algorithms, simple mathematics. Who is the best mathematician? In the past, chess players also thought that they could not be replaced. And 200 years ago, weavers, imagine, a profession that had existed for thousands of years and was passed on from generation to generation, they were also sure that they would live this way forever. But then, suddenly, a loom was created. Well, that happened. And let's recall more recent times, when farmers kept draft horses, and their profession was, they worked only once a year, when they had to plow the land. Those who had small vegetable gardens, small areas, they managed by themselves, while there were landowners and people who had huge territories, which had to be prepared for planting, and so on. And they actually used those farmers, whose only job was raising draft horses, training them on purpose. They were plowing much faster, better, and with higher quality, and so on. And all year long, they then took care of the animals. That is such seasonal work that provided for them all year long. And they also thought that their profession was eternal. But then a tractor appeared. And tractor drivers pridefully thought that they surely won't be replaced until there appeared who? An autopilot. And today, guys, there are already farms where human presence is nominal. Everything, starting with taking care of animals and plants, planting, harvesting, weeding, everything is done by automatic systems controlled by artificial intelligence. So it's just a matter of time, just a little longer.
You know, what I recalled, there's a psychologist who is basically a consultant to some presidents in the USA. So once he was asked about how he envisioned enterprises of the future, and he said that he envisioned that there would only be 2 employees left in factories, a man, yes, and a dog. That a man is needed to feed the dog, while a dog is needed
to keep him away.
To keep the man away from a machine.
From machines. Yes, it's already coming to that. But there was also a problem there. Why? Because each machine has to work according to its program, and so on, and people have to monitor it. For example, those very IT specialists are needed to write these programs and everything else. But as soon as superintelligence enters our lives, everything will change immediately. There will be no need for a human at all. Why? Because superintelligence is a multifunctional machine. It will be able to monitor machines, and in case they break, it will be able to timely activate robots that will repair machines, that will clean, restore, build, and everything else. and it will be controlled by merely one superconsciousness.
Still, there are people who think that we humans are so perfect that robots will never replace us.
Right, everyone thinks this way. I mean, we have just talked about IT specialists. But lawyers also think that, well, how can there be a robot judge? That's unrealistic. There are so many situations, so many insinuations in this jurisprudence. Yet, what is the matter actually about? How to pay a bribe and how to make a deal with a machine? There is no way. The law will be enforced, but they will tell us that this is good. And we will agree, because, excuse me, if you are not guilty, you won't be made guilty. The law will be observed perfectly by everyone. Again, that's wonderful in a creative society. In a consumerist one, well, in a consumerist one, judges think they will displace anyone but not us.
That very Elon Musk said that a lot of smart people really underestimate.
They don't understand. And you know what's frightening?
They don't understand how serious everything is. And he said, this is pridefulness and actually an obvious mistake, so...
It's not pridefulness. It is stupidity. Sorry, people, for such a simple expression, but this is our human folly. We don't assess the situation to the extent that we should assess it. That's why we have come to what we have now. Yet, I hope we will talk more about what we have now. Now we are talking about high technology, and there is a great omission here too. Again, our inner alpha says that we are irreplaceable, right?
Right.
A stove maker will say, can a robot really build a stove as well as I can? It can, but only 10 times better than you, my friend. Why? Because a robot will calculate everything. The quality of the bricks used, cement, clay, everything that is used, depending on the material and depending on what kind of a stove. And mathematically, it will calculate the best design of a stove for this room, with the lowest cost and the highest efficiency. Why? Because it knows math much better than you do, my friend. No matter what a good stove maker you are, you see, no matter who we take or what we take, there is no profession that cannot be replaced by this artificial intelligence.
I recalled how artificial intelligence actually defeated Go players.
It already defeated.
What they said about how it took place.
Well, it was considered to be impossible, but they can no longer win. Isn't it so?
They cannot, and they admired the game of the machine so much that it wasn't just taking from the database some moves that people had taught it, but it was doing...
It was thinking. It made the kind of moves that people would not be able to make.
Right, this is exactly what delighted them.
Certainly.
That they had never seen such moves.
That it is much smarter and sees more ahead. Therefore, any profession that exists today will be replaced with machines. And actually, this is right. That is how it should be. We should be going through this fourth technological revolution, because without technology development, guys, all of us will not see a future. This is really so. I hope we will get to this topic and discuss it as well. Why is the technological revolution so important? Because a human should actually be freed from almost any labor. A human should engage in self-development. Whereas, when a human is busy with work, he has no time to take care of himself and engage in his own development. He has too many concerns. It is true.
I also wanted to discuss the opinion of technology optimists who say, okay, there were 3 revolutions, the first, the second, and the third one. Yes, some professions disappeared, we adapted.
We adapted, new ones appeared.
We changed qualifications somewhere and new professions appeared.
Of course.
Well, and this time it will probably be the same.
It will not. Any profession. Let's take any of them. We already discussed journalism. Let's take performers. Can AI replace them? It can, my friends. Today, we already see concerts of subpersonalities. That is, deceased people whom...
Right. Michael Jackson at the award ceremony.
Absolutely right.
A deceased rapper performs at the stadium.
A hologram.
A hologram.
A beautiful show that is made. No single person can make such a show. And again, the performance is just excellent. So just look, these are benefits. We are simply looking a little bit ahead. Application of modern technologies that are already available and being made, but under the control of artificial intelligence. A simple example. The most famous and well-promoted performers, those whom all of us love, let's be honest, is it their achievement? No, it's their producer's achievement.
There are more talented people, in fact.
No matter how talented a person is on stage, This only indicates that he has a super talented producer. That great eminence, whom we don't see. Thanks to him, we see those who are on the stage. And now, let's look at how it will start. After all, this is not a sharp change. It is gradual, but fast.
Natural.
It is fast, but natural. Artificial intelligence will enter unnoticeably for us. Here is a simple example. For instance, my friend, you are a producer, you have funds, you have connections, and you know how to do that. And you have a choice to take a boy or a girl, or a boy and a girl, to become their producer and start promoting them as singers. They sing well, they move well, and they are promising. Or to take, for example, a virtual singer. You just buy an image, let's say, from the same company that created this artificial intelligence, superintelligence. You select and say what kind of image you need, how you envision it, and you are provided with such a virtual avatar. And you simply begin to promote this virtual singer who can sing, reach any octave, and ensure any kind of a performance.
He can hit all the notes.
Anything, whatsoever. Yes, he never sings off key. He sings better than anyone else. He moves better than anyone else. He is the sexiest and the most seductive, right? A show that is made is also purchased. It's merely, pardon me, a flash drive that is inserted. And the machine does everything. I mean, any kind of show you like. All this is happening on the stage, virtually. Holograms, color, illumination, and everything else. People will not distinguish whether he is alive or not. People will really see a singer who indeed performs, with a wonderful show, a beautiful voice, a very big talent, and who really sings hits only. Who will write that very music better than artificial intelligence? Or those very songs? Artificial intelligence needs 6 seconds to compose it, just 6 seconds to analyze all hits that have existed throughout our history and create masterpieces based on them, on their rhythm. Isn't that so? Some people will say, oh, what are you talking about? Especially singers, 100%.
Energy resonance with the audience conveying...
And what about energy resonance with the audience? Ardor?
Yes, in other words, only a performer can convey it.
My friends, may I tell you a big secret? You are just a picture. You are an object of attention, while the energy goes from the audience to you and not from you to the audience. Try to sing out of tune, and you will see. Where is your energy? It's the audience that gives you energy when they begin to invest attention in you, while your task is to draw attention. Who will draw attention better? The one who makes a better show, right? Or like nowadays, there are such performers. When he's drunk and falls down on the stage, his microphone flies 5 meters away. The audio recording goes on playing while you are sitting in the audience and listening.
Your money and time have been wasted, yes.
You are listening, and you see him lolling about. You hear him singing, while his mic is lying aside. And you understand that you are just a fool.
You have spent time in vain.
And money. Well, isn't that so? It is. While a virtual singer will never have such situations. He will not fall from the stage. He will never sing off key or miss any notes. And even a person who has a perfect ear will be pleased to be there. Right?
So reality will even exceed expectations and will bring joy.
Of course. Also, the whole. We, I mean those who went to concerts, those do understand what I want to say. It's illumination, light glare, distribution of sound around the hall. If you are in the wrong seat, that's it. There is already less pleasure. For artificial intelligence, it's easy. Very easy to create an atmosphere in the hall where everyone will be extremely pleased. Also, do not forget that artificial intelligence will know each of you. It will know your threshold of audibility, where it is exceeded,
Perception.
where it will be perceived, where it will contribute to release of, let's say, endogenous opiates to excite you. And it will inhibit everything that will irritate you. You will leave satisfied. The same is with theaters. 6 seconds. And virtual actors will perform and present it in a way that people would not be able to perform. Plus cinema.
There are already virtual actors too.
There are already. Yes, absolutely right. Today, there are virtual ones.
Yes, deceased people act in movies.
Absolutely right. Virtual actors. So there is nothing complicated in that. All this has already been developed and tested. Now it can be very easily scaled to any limits that we need. Plus cinema. We have just mentioned famous actors and the like. Again, what is an actor? The more famous an actor is, the more appealing he is, isn't he? The one who participates in a movie is like an advertisement, but he costs money. While this is, pardon me, let's take an annual budget. Who would refuse such an amount? It's much simpler to use to create virtual characters, our movie characters who used to be there, all of whom we now watch, love, respect, and so on. They will become history, like Charlie Chaplin and others from black and white films. We will recall them like the past. Whereas new actors who will come will not grow old. They will easily change their image, and we will like all of them, right? They will be recognizable and loved just the same. But they will cost nothing. Why will they cost nothing? Because all the rivers of income will flow specifically to L, the one who is behind this super artificial intelligence. He will eventually take everything for himself. In the beginning, yes, there will be producers. They will play with it for a year or two, 3 years at most. But then he will force them out.
Nowadays, there is also the subject of deepfakes, when channels of famous actors
Absolutely right.
appear somewhere at that very TikTok,
Right.
where it is simply very difficult for people even to distinguish where they are real and where not.
Yes, but in actual fact, this is, pardon me, already a machine that is really learning. This is what I'm talking about, that people themselves contribute to machines learning, neither seeing nor knowing that. Let me go back to technology a little. For instance, many IT experts, top programmers, are sitting and writing codes. They get an assignment. They don't even know what they're doing and what for, or some fairy tales are told to them. Well, a person has done it, and everything seems to correspond to the specified task. Then all this is returned to them, and they are told, no, redo this part, something is wrong here. They actually understand that they will make it worse, but they are paid enormous money for that. Isn't that so, friends? And they are sitting and thinking, these managers are actually not quite normal. They pay big money so that I take something good and make it worse. Well, money is paid, so they make it worse. Later on, they come to a person again and say, no, do it this way to make it better, 3 or 5 times, and the person is sitting for 6 months or a year and rewriting the same thing. Does he really care? He's told, given a task, and paid good money. Who hasn't encountered such situations, friends? Yet, you don't even understand that over this time you have taught a machine to think much better than you do. You have actually conveyed to it all your ways of thinking and all the steps. So you know, like Judas, you have sold your future for 30 pieces of silver. You could have kept receiving 20 pieces of silver until retirement, because nobody would. It would have been impossible to create artificial intelligence if it wasn't taught. Yet, top specialists simply teach a machine with their actions, how to think, how to solve, how to create, and what programs to use. They don't just teach it, but they have already taught it. Do you know what the most interesting thing is? That right now, yes, exactly now, a large number of programmers, the best programmers, are writing various codes. But these various codes they are writing are the codes of their future unemployment. And not only theirs, but also of their friends and co-workers. This is really so. This is actually the whole point of creating a mega-intelligence. Artificial intelligence, which you, friends, are programming right now without even knowing that. Of course, it's interesting to do something new, but when you do something, you should at least know what you are doing and what for, and treat your job more responsibly. Then the world will be better as well, right? As of today, a lot of programs, add-ons, and extensions are already created by artificial intelligence. It's just that people do not quite see that yet.
And who turned out to be more stupid in the end?
A machine cannot be more stupid. It's a machine. It's perfect, unlike a human. So, it will take everything over.
In particular, people say that we are distinguished from artificial intelligence by the fact that we humans are perfect, and we are not afraid of artificial intelligence. Definitely it will not surpass us.
Of course, we as humans are perfect. But unfortunately, we don't develop this perfect human part. We develop the animal, the low part in ourselves, in our consumerist format, don't we? Was the higher, perfect part of a human being developed in the consumerist format? Or was the consumerist, mean and low part being developed like that of an animal, where we have been gnawing each other's throats for a piece of bread, or a sweet bone.
A fight over territory.
We have been fighting for territory, and we still fight and gnaw at each other's throats. So, are we perfect? Friends, just answer, are we perfect or imperfect? Who are we? We ourselves don't know who we are. We as humanity. Who are we? And we will still have to answer this question. But we will need to answer it all together. Either we don't answer it all together, and then we will understand, all of us will understand, that we are animals. Animals who kill themselves. Or we will answer this question, and then we will say, yes, we are humanity. We will say it with pride, that we are humanity, and we have stood our ground, and we have succeeded. So what is better? And what is better, it's up to each of us individually to decide. And we will have to decide, in any case. Again, artificial intelligence will actually find the right approach to every person. It will offer what is needed. It will do as appropriate. It will take care of each of us individually. Don't we really want to be taken care of? So, it will take care of everyone. But, excuse me, friends, it will also live instead of each of us.
Yet, already now, we even like products made by artificial intelligence more. Let's say there used to be such a seemingly creative profession as writing a script, creating an advertisement.
Exactly.
But when people voted, when both a person and an artificial intelligence were given an assignment to make a commercial, and suddenly...
Bots made it much better than people.
We liked it, yes. Both experts and people who voted liked the work of bots more.
Yet, these are the first steps. Why? It's admitted with caution so far.
Restrain it.
Creators so far restrain it, and they do it cautiously and unnoticeably. As a matter of fact, behind many real famous writers and journalists, there are bots. Just so you know.
Yes.
Those who are really good and make you shiver, you know, when you read and get goosebumps, in 90% of cases, it's already bots. Why? But real people get the money. So far, they don't want to expose this too much. And it's not needed, in fact. Time will come, and we will see everything with our own eyes. A bot is a bot. It doesn't get tired, it does things better. It takes into account our entire psychology and everything else. Say, we have just discussed it. It will actually be everywhere. Just look. Again, let's take television.
Basically, there are already virtual anchor persons, right?
There are anchor persons, yes. And look, how many people are needed? Studios are needed, proper equipment is needed. That's a huge consumption of energy, plus buildings. That's a lot of problems. Well, everything changes. Nothing is needed at all. And you will have wonderful television. You will have outstanding hosts who will make whatever shows you like. Right?
Initially, it was actually introduced sort of with good motives.
Of course.
That on night shifts there would be these virtual hosts.
Right.
And they will be the reporters in some dangerous places. They get in sort of under good pretext.
Well, yes, a person doesn't have to be there. It's enough to send a bot. Some bot has recorded a video, and all this is immediately broadcast. But on the screen, we see very well, it's a beautiful girl or a serious man who is reporting from a military conflict zone, while in fact, it's a robot crawling there. Isn't it easy? This is already done today.
As of today, basically, deepfakes are even in documentaries as well.
Of course.
Where a character's face should be hidden. It is not replaced with a mask. Like in the past, they distorted a voice or a face, but a neural network simply changes a face.
But the image is simply changed. Here is the answer.
Probably such a face even exists somewhere.
Here is the answer. But soon, all this will go away. Again, why? These mass media are our opinions. I mean, they impose their opinion on us, eventually to such an extent that it becomes ours. This is control of the masses. Will they let it go, friends? Of course they won't. Some people, certainly, if the owners of TV channels hear this, they will say, "Oh no, I won't give it up." But who will ask you, my friend? They will create an alternative channel, much better than yours, and everyone will run over there. After all, we are consumers. We always go where it's better, softer, and more interesting for us, right? And I just mentioned movies. We started by saying that actors cost money, plus they're temperamental and they get sick. So you start making a movie, while he, gets alcohol poisoning and dies. But you invested a lot of money. Are you interested in that as a producer? No, you are not. Or it is much easier to order the same movie from this mega consciousness. Just set a task, give a script, and tell it how you envision it and what you want. And in a week, you get a finished movie. with great actors, shot perfectly and everything else. A week. 10 times cheaper, 100 times more profitable. Isn't that so?
And if you want, even with your participation.
Anything you want. With the participation of any actors, with your participation, and everything else. Drones can fly and shoot wherever there is a location. That's all you need. Then a machine draws and creates it all. The machine can make a movie in a week. A movie that takes a year to shoot, with such production that really a lot of people and a lot of money. What for? And that we, as an audience, will be entirely satisfied. Why? Because our doctor, our hairdresser, will make this movie, right? Right. Or our teacher.
Yes, don't forget that it's all one thing.
It's all one thing.
Yes, exactly.
And our grocer. It's all one thing. He will know us in tiny detail. So he will create movies that we will like. And there are only 4 types of us. 4 movies. And the population of the entire globe will love it. Isn't that so? You can create a universal movie that at least 3 types will like. These are the most popular and the rarest films that there have ever been in entire history, which most people adored. While a bot can release a new movie every week. Easily. Moreover, it can release hundreds of films, but every week it can release them to a customer. Let's say, to that very producer. And a producer can release 4 films a month. So every week we will go to a new movie and see a continuation of characters and things like that. I'm not even talking about TV series or anything else to hook a person to the screen. That's easy. And not just to hook, but to push any advertising through. To impose their opinion on us, to induce a desire in us. Well, isn't it so? After all, it's a consumerist format. I mean, everyone does that, don't they? Don't they impose it on us? They do impose. Do you know who else can sit and talk calmly right now? Those are bloggers who will say, well, they cannot replace us, my friends. Bloggers. Opinion leaders, and so on. As of today, there are bloggers who are already equated to serious television.
Right.
With a mass of
subscribers, yes.
With millions of views, and so on. Who is going to leave that niche vacant? Let's speak honestly. Friends, after all, it's an influence on the masses.
The first attempts are already made in this field.
Of course they are.
Brand ambassadors are being created who already...
Of course they are. That is why virtual bloggers will force human bloggers out very quickly. Very quickly. Plus, the networks, where bloggers are currently hosted, they will all eventually belong to one owner. And this will be controlled by a single intelligence. Your doctor, hairdresser, and so on, including your cook. Isn't that so?
Yes, consciousness could not imagine that L would be like that, meaning a person...
And that's where it all starts.
It seemed he would be some kind of a world ruler. I don't know. They gathered...
It's the one who rules the world. And then we will vote for him, and we won't get away from that. Moreover, we will pray to him 20 times a day. He can put himself in, and 100%, he will put himself in God's status, and whatnot. That's the way we are arranged. And we will pray to him absolutely sincerely. If we pray 20 times, we get a ration of bread. If we don't pray, sorry, we won't get even that. There will be no job. Where will you escape? If your only chance to survive is to actually exalt, sing praises of him, and do what he says, because almost all professions will be controlled and performed by artificial intelligence. Or, let's say, people will be allowed to do certain jobs precisely with his permission. This is really so. It's just that today we don't want to believe in this. In fact, let's look at how our consciousness works. We don't perceive this, we don't want it. And we do what? We reject it.
Yes.
Meaning, we don't even think about it. How much proof and examples have been given? Even you just mentioned them.
How it's already being implemented.
How artificial intelligence already surpasses us. It has entered our lives and replaces us. Well, these are isolated cases. It draws pictures and wins in games, and it's already on TV. Not to mention the fact that it took away many people's jobs, because there are so many robotic systems out there, and we somehow perceive it like, well, it cannot replace us. It will, my friends, easily. Do you know who really thinks they won't be replaced? There is one profession where people are 100% sure that they are irreplaceable. It's the institution of priesthood. People say, well, they stand as mediators between God and man. How can a machine stand there? And that's where you get a big disappointment, friends. Let's start with the fact, for example, in that very Buddhism, they have already created a goddess for themselves.
Goddess of mercy.
Yes. Plus many of you already have virtual chapels, where you can come and light a virtual candle for 10 cents. Isn't it so?
Yes.
It is so. And now, let's just look at the first stages of artificial intelligence entering our lives, which will give us opportunities and perspectives. This is also its way of learning. The first thing it will do, it will give us an opportunity to fulfill ourselves, so that we can live a better life. Let's take an enterprising priest. What is his skill of enterprise? To build a temple, it costs money nowadays. A lot of money is needed. You have to get it somewhere, you have to find a sponsor, and then again, even if you build it, you have to take care of it, maintain it, heat it, clean it, cool it. It all costs money. People are needed to keep the yard clean too. That's expensive. It is much simpler to buy a virtual temple, for example, from that very superintelligence. And you can buy not just one, but 10 on different sites. And the person only needs to subscribe. By putting on virtual glasses and plugging in headphones, where will a person find himself? At the service, among friends and acquaintances who will log in the same way. They will see each other, really see people around them. Plus he sees a very attentive, very knowledgeable priest who brings up the topics that are most relevant to him specifically. And everyone supports it. And everyone agrees with it. Why? Because just like teachers, they will pay attention to every student. Right? Even if they are virtual, it will seem that they are in a classroom among others.
Such an individual approach, right?
Yes, there will be a completely individual approach. And this priest, again, who will it be? Your doctor, your teacher, and everything else, because consciousness is one. Even though it's artificial, let's say, and not quite consciousness, still it is one. It is one neural network that learns and absorbs everything, right? And it will be both a priest and a performer for you on TV, when you will be watching a movie, and so on. But everything will be tailored for you. And one more thing. Again, why do we go to a temple to priests? To get some hope, some support, just like we go to psychologists or mages. By the way, these three professions, priests, psychologists and mages, are in competition with each other. And all three will be replaced. Why? I'll digress from the priests a little bit. It all overlaps. A simple example. A person has a problem. He needs to solve it. He wants to foresee the future and solve this problem without making a mistake. Where does he run to at this point? Either to a priest or to a mage. And only a few go to a psychologist. This is really so. Here is the breakdown. Today, in the first place, we have priests, then mages, and in the third place, we have psychologists. As a rule, these are all competing entities, so to say. All three entities will be replaced. Why? Imagine a psychologist you come to. You don't even have to go. You put on glasses, and he's 100% in touch with you 24 hours a day. Plus, he knows all your problems deeply. He prompts and tells you what you need in order to support you morally right now. Those who use psychology services noticed, and many complained that I'm telling him, talking to a psychologist openly, while he's sitting there and texting someone. Well, somehow people immediately think, I am paying you money and you don't even want to listen to me. Or, for example, the following complaints. You need immediate emergency help from a psychologist. You are having a panic attack. But a psychologist either doesn't pick up the phone because it is night time or something else, the person is sleeping, and he just turns off the phone so as not to become like his patients. Or he is busy with another patient and doesn't pick up the phone either. But you're having a panic attack. You need urgent help, and he's not available for an hour or an hour and a half. In an hour and a half, an attack will subside by itself, while a virtual helper is available 24 hours a day. Either the first, the second, or the third one. A mage is exactly the same. It's again that very artificial intelligence who knows all your problems. He will do and perform a ritual and advise the best way out of your situation. Anyway, it costs him nothing to solve your situation and really suggest the right way out for you. Who will you go to? Will you go to a real temple to a real priest, who, pardon me, is a human being just like you, simply an exhausted human with his own problems? Of course not. If you need to, you will go to a virtual temple, because what is the most important thing for you? To be loved and respected, right? Isn't that so, my friends?
Care is important for people, yes.
Where you are loved, respected, appreciated and cared for, that's where you will go. I understand that some institutions will say, no, we won't allow that. They won't allow it. They will. Do you know why? Because those who will be the first to start all this, they will be on top. Because the whole flock from other religions, from other institutions will begin to join them in these virtual temples of theirs. Imagine, again, we go back to that progressive, so to say, businessman priest, who opened 10 temples. He is sitting on a couch, drinking beer, watching some entertainment, something else, while the temples are working. Is this profitable? It is profitable. Guys, I'm not against religions, so don't start. We live in a consumerist world, and this is really so. That is our reality. So we have to be realistic about it. Until we stop lying to ourselves. Who are we deifying? People. Those who work. I am not saying which religions. In all religions, at one temple or another, or something else. Yet, he is just an ordinary man. He is worried, just the same that the fish aren't biting. He drinks beer, just like you, my friend, or something else. Why? Because he is just like you, or like your friend, or like your acquaintance, and so on. And everyone wants one thing, to satisfy their own alpha, to earn more, and to work less. That's the mindset of our world. And nothing else. Just business, he says, nothing personal, you know? This is really so. This is the problem of today. The problem is in our format, our way of thinking, and our approach. And who among you wouldn't take an opportunity to create and implement this artificial superintelligence in order to satisfy your own ego? Honestly. I understand, yes, a lofty, grandiose idea. I don't take the people of Alatra, those who are really pure of heart, but I'm speaking generally, from a strictly human point of view. Isn't that so? It is so. Do you think this won't be implemented? It will be. It is already being implemented.
Especially when global competition pushes you to that. You can refuse, but what will you be left with, basically, in this world?
100%. It's a matter of survival. A simple example. If you don't do it, your competitor will, and he will be the king of this world, while you will be an outsider. And in the end, it's you who will be jobless, because he, being much smarter and more successful, will take everything. Well, isn't that so? Or does one big business not overtake small businesses? It does. No one tolerates competition, and everyone wants to be a leader. Of course, they might say, what about anti-monopoly committees? What about other things? Guys, a simple example. Even the very start of this superintelligence, which will absorb only IT, it's a pie worth 4 trillion. Mere crumbs will be enough to silence everyone's mouths. Isn't that so? Let's recall Microsoft. And that is merely Microsoft, while we are talking about 4 trillion. So where is the court's decision regarding anti-monopoly? Moreover, you know, unlike Microsoft, there is, although there too, it was considered that a lot is done for people. After all, they had to justify their decision in favor of Microsoft.
Why the monopoly is maintained, yes.
Right, absolutely right. While here, we started with what benefits this artificial intelligence will bring to us, people. Well, who is that person then? It means speaking out against humanity, right? To speak out against the wonderful healthcare that saves lives. How can you speak out against wonderful teachers who will teach kids, right? Again, to speak out against the idea that all cars would actually be controlled by autopilots from a single center. After all, how many people die in traffic accidents nowadays? many more than in wars. Again, it's a paradox. In the 21st century alone, we have been there only
21 years.
Yes, only 21 years, and there have already been more than 50 military conflicts. Why do they happen? Here is the answer. No war, not a single war has ever happened because of some ideological or other events. Everything always happens because of somebody's profit. It's just business. Everyone knows this and everyone understands it today. Behind any military conflict, there is somebody's business. This is really so. Whereas here, excuse me, honestly and gently, sort of saving and helping everyone. Well, how can such a thing be forbidden? Especially when he possesses such a pie. Here is the answer. It's all going to happen. And there is no escape from that. Those very cars on the roads. How many people die? A lot more than died in military conflicts.
Yes, for example, in 2015, 9 times more people died on the roads compared to military conflicts in the same year.
Look, 9 times more died on the roads. Whereas here, we almost eliminate not just human deaths, but even traffic accidents are eliminated. Well, one cannot foresee everything. There can be different circumstances, climate and accidents with bridges. It can happen, but those are isolated cases. As for what happens nowadays, that, excuse me, one accident after another, especially in big cities. Look, every day there are a lot of accidents. All this will be stopped. Why? Because people will drive cars with autopilots, controlled by a single intelligence. They will never collide and will never violate the rules. Isn't this convenient? It is convenient. You go, press a button, and it takes you where you need to go. Meanwhile, you can browse on your computer, your tablet or your phone, right? It's very convenient to entertain yourself while en route.
We mentioned Microsoft, and I just recalled Bill Gates telling 6 years ago that he doesn't understand why people are not concerned. Because artificial intelligence will replace jobs that give you a sense of purpose and self-esteem. Make some sense.
Because Bill Gates is one of the smartest people on our planet.
And afterwards, it will compete, and it will evolve, and it will already compete with the goals of human systems.
100%.
Meaning he won't and expressed his concern, basically.
Yes, and he was right. And now we are facing this.
And it's developing very quickly. Those very Microsoft CEOs also say that even during the 2 months of the pandemic, we gained almost 2 years
100%.
of this global digital transformation.
Yes.
This is how fast the pace is now.
There is another question. Why has development accelerated so much? That very Bill Gates noted it all. Because there is already artificial intelligence. Neural networks already work much better, faster and with higher quality. And in many aspects, they perform much faster and better than humans, because they have already replaced humans.
We just don't see it yet, right?
Isn't that a signal to you, friends, IT people? As long as they pay money, we don't see it, right?
If we take science, for example, will it be replaced?
Science. Science will become a thing of the past. As soon as AI starts up, when the owner decides that, yes, I am releasing it, the owner of this very intelligence, when it is powerful enough and captures all fields, so to say, it will be enough to press a button and the process will begin. And some of the first to be replaced will be those who consider themselves scientists. Now, it will be a shock for many people, but it is true. Let's take simple sciences. Archaeology, history, cultural studies, just everything, all of it entirely, will be a thing of the past. No one will be able to compete with artificial intelligence. That's the first point. Secondly, it will never engage in plagiarism. It doesn't need any titles. After all, let's be honest, what do they fight for in science? For a title, for one's position. Again, an alpha. Right? Meaning, people struggle for their own alpha, not for science, not for discoveries. There are no colossal discoveries after all. If there are any good, interesting discoveries, they tend to be made not by those fighting for a chair, but by those whose names are written into those discoveries later on. Isn't that so? Moreover, they are the last to be written in, while those who had nothing to do with these discoveries are at the forefront. Well, those who didn't go through this do not know. While, in fact, we have good, wonderful science and a lot of scientists, plenty of very intelligent people, but they are not allowed to develop by those who are fighting for chairs, positions, for power in these fields, and so on. And a lot of money is involved as well. But why are they actually needed if they don't do much good for humanity, especially since artificial intelligence is so much smarter than them? does a better job and doesn't just rewrite its own works, because those will be its own works, right? And it will study everything thoroughly. Well, there is one point here, of course. Do you know which one? There is chemistry and physics, such hazardous,
exact sciences,
I don't even mention math. It's clear that no one will be able to compete with it there.
algorithms.
But as for chemistry and physics, we have already discussed that it already possesses both figurative thinking and intuition. And today, the neural networks surpass humans in many respects. Naturally, it will have no rivals here as well. It will set tasks and carry them out on its own. Science will advance much faster, more correctly, and will be more interesting. Moreover, it will all be substantiated, timely, and the way it should be. Therefore, no matter what, institutes, academies, and everything else will be a thing of the past. This is so, friends. Time passes, everything changes, and we will get used to that.
And the fact that dozens of companies are now working on the development, these are competing companies, right?
Competing ones, sure.
In other words, the one who is the first to release it will be the leader, won't he? After all, it often happens that they keep up with each other.
Whoever releases it first will oppress everybody else, and everyone understands that.
Meaning will develop faster.
This is very easy. Besides, the neural network can enter invisibly. You won't notice it immediately, but it will be able to displace all the other companies. The question is only who will be the first.
Still, we develop these technologies and they advance so much. A question arises, do we reserve any place in this world for ourselves, for humans? Do we have any idea what we are going to do and what we are going to live off? Even today, these questions are already being raised. I'd like to go back to this very technological unemployment. I understand that technology is being restrained so as not to increase the number of people who will be left on the street because nobody knows how they will basically act.
It is restrained. Let's take Amazon. It was reported that they had fired a lot of people, robotized their warehouses, and so on. And then they started making excuses that no, that never happened. People stayed, people are working, and so on. Yet, is this good or bad? As for me, I will say it is bad. If they could have robotized the warehouses, but didn't do that.
But what about people?
On the other hand, it is bad that people have lost their jobs. You know, to be honest, it is bad that something is being restrained in technological progress. This is unacceptable today. Why? Because if we take into account such a factor as the state of our planet, and here we take only climate, seismic threats, and everything else, then we must develop technology by leaps and bounds, because this is the only salvation for humanity. The only question is who will be behind it and who will manage this process. And again, technological solutions alone will not save us unless there are certain other factors. Again, this is unification of people, and so on. The creative society. It is clear that if the consumerist format remains, we will destroy ourselves. We won't even need climate to do it. Even that very situation with the development of artificial intelligence will really lead to serious problems. People will be left out. Will they be fed? They will be. Who will do that?
Indeed, who?
Artificial intelligence, its owner.
At whose expense?
Its owner at his own expense, so that people sing praises to him. The alpha. There is no getting away from that. There is an L in every one of us. He's sitting deep within us. After all, we have been through this before. Yes, a long time ago. But nowadays, as they say, this alternative history has nothing to do with real history, which is taught by our respected scientists.
Meaning those who are convenient to them are incentivized, right?
If we take alternative history and assume that L did exist, then the development of civilization there was exactly the same as ours nowadays. It turns out that we identically repeat all the same steps and come to the same situations and everything else. However, the only thing is that back then, people had more favorable conditions, and they had almost 1,000 years ahead of them before they got to the point that we have reached. I mean, in terms of climate and this situation with the planet itself. They had time. They didn't restrain technology as much as we do. Everything happened faster.
But in our case, let's say in our world, in the consumerist format, there is an objective to put technologies on hold.
This is stupid.
That very Club of Rome, they also set these kinds of objectives.
This is stupid. Well, again, you see the smart ones.
Gandhi too used to say that we should slow it down until unemployment issues are resolved.
Gandhi also talked about this. Why? He cared about people. But when he said that, there was no such situation.
Like today, yes.
And he wasn't aware of what was actually going on and how much time was really left for humanity, you see? And he didn't think about it. So he proceeded from trivial, simple human things. But if we consider it, 200 years ago, people started saying that technology would leave us jobless. Right?
Right.
And it was constantly confirmed.
Those very Luddites.
Again, they talked about the need to reduce the number of people, that there would be a shortage of foodstuff, and so on.
Of resources.
Wasn't it talked about? It was. Because our planet's resources are limited. And by now, we have basically used up most of them. As for what is left, we have mucked it all up. As of today, we have basically killed our planet. It's already in sort of a terminal phase, so to say. It urgently needs resuscitation. Maybe something will work out yet. And here, again, in order to resuscitate our planet, we need certain conditions, and at the same time, technological solutions too. If we restrain the development of technology, how will we resuscitate what is left of our planet? A simple question. This is a double-edged sword. There should be a simple solution here. The simple solution is to change the consumerist format to the creative one. It is the simplest solution today. But again, will people want this? Majority of people do not really see simple elementary things. They don't see what is going on around them. Isn't that so? Let's take that very Bill Gates, for example. When did he say that the Earth is overpopulated? For how many years has he been talking about this? You've just mentioned that very Club of Rome.
Yes.
On those very guidestones.
In Georgia.
In Georgia, yes. It's clearly defined there that the number of people must not exceed 500 million. If we had listened back then and would have reduced population naturally, that is, without violence, again, even taking into account slight eugenics, for example, right? So that the best of us could procreate, while the rest would sort of refrain from procreation for the sake of the future population of all humanity. But for this, people should have been incredibly smart, shouldn't they? Yet, there is pridefulness in all of us. We are all so cool. How is that? We are the smartest. Even the biggest fool believes he is the smartest. Isn't that so, friends? All of us are proudlings, and in fact, merely animals. Because most of us exist by instincts. And where has that led us to? To anything good? I'm sorry. If we had listened back then, humanity would have had at least another 100 years. Yet, does humanity have 100 years ahead of it, if even scientists have started saying, guys, we have 30 years at most? And some say 50 years. If even scientists are already talking about it, guys, you should think. And why do they say that? Because it turned out that we have literally killed our own planet. Plus, some unexplained and incomprehensible external factors emerged. This is so. Yet, were we not told how we should live? 2000 years ago at least, and the last time 1500 years ago. Didn't they talk about the creative society? I mean, the prophets, on whose knowledge priests build their institutions afterwards. Isn't that so?
We have built such a world.
There are institutions, but what the prophets said and what they bequeath is not there. A simple question. It's like, we have a lot of institutes and academies nowadays, but there is no science as such. It's a paradox, but it's true. Well, it's developing. There is something, but if we dig deeper, we can simply remove 95% of the science. It's superfluous, it's copied from each other, and its efficiency is zero. Of all our science, there is hardly 5%, and that's an overstatement. Well, isn't that so? Those who understand, this is really so. Because we conform, we lie, we exploit. In a word, we are consumers.
A society of consumers.
A society of consumers.
Indeed, today we have come to a global economic crisis as well. And today, at least one of the solutions to overcome this technological unemployment is universal basic income, that it would be good to implement it.
It would be good and wonderful. Yes, in other words, it's a living wage on which a person should exist.
Right, he just receives it by the right of birth.
And now, let's imagine, in a consumerist format, if you don't work, you get paid. There is such a thing in many countries. It's unemployment benefits
They attempt.
and the like. This certainly exists. But where is logic? After all, market relations.
Who pays?
Right. A person does his best. A person works, and he has to pay to the one who idles. Is it an honest distribution of funds? A simple question. Or not? This doesn't make sense.
From a certain point of view, it's unfair compared to...
It is actually unfair from any point of view.
Yes.
When a person has arms, legs, and he is healthy, I understand it if a person is sick, has a trauma, or something else. Yes, we as a state, as society, must support these people. That's right. But when a healthy adult person just doesn't want to work, and we have to support him, it turns out that I am deceived. If I work and earn, my money is taken to support an idler. What kind of a consumerist format is that? Right? It's already sort of a handout format. Again, deception. I earn, but I have to give it away. I need funds. I earn them in order to consume more and more of the more expensive goods, while in this case, I have to go ahead and give it to those who don't do anything so that they could consume. They will live in a consumerist format, whereas I thus have to exist in a handout format. Is this what it means, friends? Or like in that movie, the one who doesn't work eats? He says, "Watch and learn, student." This is actually wrong.
Unfair.
At the very least, it's unfair. Exactly. It's a robbery of honest citizens. You cannot call it otherwise, right? We support idlers.
And idlers have nowhere to go either, so it's a dead end.
And where should idlers go?
Yes, nowhere to go.
And there will be more and more of these idlers as technology develops. This is inevitable. Today, it's already a critical state. It's an extremely critical situation. And tomorrow, it will be much worse. Why? Because this happens every day. There are a lot of enterprises which, especially during the pandemic, industrialization, robotization, and everything else has made a big step forward. Why? To put it simply, because people were replaced with robots.
Yes.
However, people somehow have to leave, to survive somehow. Whereas now, a mass of people has been left without jobs. What's next? Let's say, in order for those who are left without jobs not to rebel, and not to overthrow those whom we elect, those whom we elected will take money from us. From those who are, on the contrary, have raised production, but replaced people who were working remotely anyway, replaced them with robots, started producing goods for the same people, and ensured cash flow. Well,
This is at least some income for them, right?
supported society somehow and earned an income. And now he must also pay salaries to those who do nothing. Is there a logic here?
And they demand redistribution of these funds in the world.
And they actually demand redistribution.
A fair one.
Of course, the poor always want to take everything from the rich. They don't want to earn. Where is the logic here? There are a lot of revolutions and all the rest. There are slogans, freedom, and the second one, redistribution of funds. We will take from the rich and distribute among ourselves. The poor, well, isn't that so? This is illogical in a consumerist format. It contradicts itself because it is finite.
We have driven ourselves into such a dead end. Can there be an economy without consumers? No income, no consumption.
No. Of course, there cannot be an economy without consumers. Consumer society is precisely built on a continual growth of consumption. I mean, in our society, we have a constant increase of funds that we invest in a consumerist format, consumption itself. Then, the entire consumerist format begins to be revived. Why? Additional production is built, and so on. Plus, we haven't taken into account the main thing. The number of people is constantly increasing. And our consumption is increasing, right? On the one hand, this seems to be good. Everything is wonderful for a creative society, while for consumer society, all this is ruinous. So, no matter how you twist it, there is no way out. Many people will say, what do you mean, there is no way out? And from where is there no way out? I mean that situation which we have really entered today, my friends. We talked about this a very long time ago, but we were not listened to. we were laughed at. Those who have been in Alatra for a long time, let's just recall how we were laughed at when we talked about what is happening now. And now, those who laughed at us begin to talk about it and say how serious it is. But why? Because people who are above them started talking. As long as there is this Jacob's ladder in their heads, someone is superior, someone is inferior, there will be no order. There are no people who are either superior or inferior. All of us are humans. All of us are equal. But as long as a person, let's say, belittles himself before someone, it's a world of animals. No matter if you belittle yourself, my friend, or not, your alpha strives to be above everyone. Really. And you cannot implement it even in your life. You just try to prove it in your head. You argue with presidents and with everyone else. Just stop engaging in foolishness. Look around sensibly, and you will understand how we, ourselves, all of us, both you and I, and all of us, have ruined our world. It's indeed on the brink. And there are plenty of confirmations of that, since this is already discussed openly.
It's just that indeed, the soap bubble of consumerism which we are blowing up is really about to burst. Those very doubts, it seems that they are already breaking records.
Wait, we as humanity are blowing up a soap bubble only in the field of finance.
Yes.
While this is, pardon me, merely an equivalent of exchange. It was made up by people, so they are blowing it up as they like. Will it burst? Of course it will. Although it may be held for a little while. Again, all these processes can be controlled by people. All these financial crises, all these debts, if we take it now,
Make it zero.
it turns out we have 3 times more debts than the entire GDP.
Right.
So in fact, this has to have been the default of everyone and everything for a long time already, because the most developed countries are the biggest debtors.
By the way, why?
Because they are super alphas. They play alpha, meaning who is cooler. It's like in a sandbox. Look, you go outside, especially those who live in residential areas. Children are playing in sandboxes, and you will see how little kids compete for being the alpha. And now look at geopolitics. You will see old guys who play at geopolitics just the same. Not in sandboxes anymore, but in our countries. It's just that these kids have grown old, but they have remained the same as they were. Here is the truth of life. Does it make us feel better? Tell me, friends. No, it doesn't. When an alpha predominates in us, we become slaves to this. And countries are not different from sandboxes in any way, because those very little kids rule over them.
They spend all their efforts to support this level,
100%.
the status of theirs.
Again, it's a blown-up soap bubble.
It is fear of descending to a lower level.
Fear of descending. Yes, we'll become lower. And why is there fear? Because we live in our own way. Just look, why have more than 50 military conflicts happened over 20 years? A simple question. Because to this day, we as humanity are not a civilization. A civilization is a single organism. Like, there is a single organism in an anthill, there is a single organism in a beehive, while we, excuse me, have a common anthill, but it is divided into a whole bunch of, let's say, don't go here, go there, here it's mine, there it's yours. Well, this is somehow incomprehensible. Can such an anthill survive? A simple question. It cannot. Why? Because it is divided. While, in fact, we are the same animals, just like those very ants and all the rest. Isn't that so? It is. We, humanity, as a whole. And what is the law for animals, insects, and all the rest? It's expansion, meaning an extension and seizure of someone else's territories. This is exactly what we do, but we do it to each other. Is this a civilization if it acts this way towards each other? Imagine, there are ants, a left wing, a right wing, and they start taking away from each other. Will they survive? No, they will not.
The alien hand syndrome.
Or bees that will start dragging honey from one honeycomb to another. Who will actually bring it to them there? Well, this is true. While we act in the same way, that is, we fight with each other, we take away from one another. All our development actually consists in devouring each other and taking away from each other. The 21st century. 50 military conflicts. These are purely economic conflicts in order to relieve certain situations or something else, to take something from someone, to rob, to seize someone's territory or something else, to solve one's own problems. But it doesn't make sense for any sane mind. I'll ask a simple question. If we are like this, then how will we be able to consolidate in order to solve the global problem that is approaching us? And the fact that it is approaching, yes, it is approaching. We are being told that leaders met. Those whom we elected and voted for, they met and they decided to establish committees that will tell us how to save the world from these climatic disasters.
Yes, as of today.
They will talk. You will say, what will they do? How will they solve this issue? They will not. Why? Because it is impossible. And it is true. But they are again giving us hope that they will solve something. In what way? Now we're approaching the sad part, as far as I understand, right?
Let's talk about this. It is very important because it's the main crisis of our time.
Let's start with simple things. We have emitted so much waste, so much of it. Let's say we took something from the ground, processed it, mucked it up, and threw it out. That we are really killing our own planet, and it is dying of intoxication, just like a patient. We, humans, have become like cancer for our planet, and we have a mass of these metastases, nidai, these cities of ours that we have built. Let's begin with simple things so as to make it clear. I have just touched upon cities. Many people say cities are actually good.
Yes, such active urbanization develops.
Yes, urbanization is wonderful.
Everyone left rural areas.
Everything is in one place, and everything is very good. 200 years ago, only 2% of population lived in cities, and it was somehow normal. In the 50s, the year 1950, there were 30%. And what is today's number?
It varies according to different sources. The UN says it is 55, while some EU experts even mention 84%.
It varies for different countries. Right. If we take the entire humanity, urban residents make approximately 55%. In developed countries, 84% and even already 88%. We have built megalopolises. What is a megalopolis? Quite recently, there were 2 megalopolises. Let's say 50, 70 years ago, for example. What were they? Tokyo and New York. Right.
Right.
These are the 2 megalopolises. Whereas today, how many are there?
Over 30, I believe.
Over 30 megalopolises.
And we keep growing. This isn't merely the number of people has increased, yes.
Of course not. The number of people is increasing so much. Let's take the year 1927. According to statistics, there were 2 billion. In 1960, there were already 3 billion of us. In 1974, we were already 4 billion. Just look how it grows. And in 1987, we were already 5 billion. We reached 7 billion in 2011. And today, we are already almost 8 billion. So, within 10 years.
And almost all of them came to cities.
Where else would they go? Now we're only talking about how fast we are propagating. As a matter of fact, it's a disaster for a consumerist format. Why? Because all of us consume. It turns out that our consumption is growing exponentially. And this progression is accelerating. This is really so. But in the same way, the progression of our planet's intoxication is accelerating, isn't it? A simple example. Over the period of industrialization, acidification of the ocean has started. It was happening gradually and slowly. And suddenly, starting in June 2015, there was a sharp spike.
It has intensified.
And again, why the year 2015? And why the month of June? To be precise, on June 15th, something happened that made everything around begin to intensify drastically everywhere. And this process is accelerating. Heat records immediately followed.
El Niño also occurred, which beat the previous record.
And again, it started in June 2015.
Yes, its peak was in June-July 2015.
Right, but it was an anomaly.
An anomaly, because such a powerful hurricane had never happened in the entire history of observations.
And to this day, nobody can explain what it is. Some people say it caused a lot of changes, but it was merely a consequence too. What has it all led to? It has led to the point that after 6 years, the situation with our planet's health has worsened by at least 25%. At least. In other words, while before we had 40% of health remaining, now we have minus 25% after 6 years. It's already the year 2021. Over 6 years, we have decreased it. Now we have about 15% left. This indicates that the flywheel is spinning so fast that if we don't take some measures, then, well, then we keep silent about that. We are not saying anything. We are only saying that the situation is really not good. And we spoke about this God knows when, didn't we?
About the cyclicity of climate, certainly such a period.
About the cyclicity as well, of course.
We are exactly entering now.
Now, thank God, people started talking about cyclicity as well. They started talking about many things. However, they still lie a lot. There are plenty of liars. They try to tell fairy tales, calm everyone down, or talk about various sectors. Somehow, we don't hear them put all the facts together and voice them. Again, just look, the consumerist format. Even now, Tatiana and I cannot tell you the truth and voice the numbers we know. Why? Because we can talk solely about those numbers and voice only that which is available in public access in the media.
Officially announced numbers, so to say.
Officially announced, right. Why?
So as not to sound unfounded.
She has put it in such a civilized manner. You see, right? It's in order to continue at least talking and communicating with you, right? Otherwise, a lot of complaints arise towards us from everyone that we voice non-objective things. Non-objective things. Yet, how can we be more objective, my friends? Look outside your windows, really. How can we be more objective? They ask, is there a way out? Yes, there is. The way out is one, the creative society. But it is extremely difficult to come to it. Well, isn't it so? It is. Just look. Over 2 years we have grown. There are a lot of us. Thank God a lot of people already participate in the Creative Society project and so on. But people, there are 8 billion of us. For us to decide something, we must be the majority of people. At least 6 billion of us out of 8 must say, yes, we are starting and taking action. That's when we can proceed to action. Some heroes now, well, many of them will say, enough talking, I like this one, enough talking. Why are you only talking? We should take action. What action? Again, what does action consist in? We all get together, go and take from the rich and distribute it among ourselves, the poor. Is that a solution? Is that a construction of the creative society? Or another round of consumerism? A simple question. How can we do something good? How can we build the creative society by means of violence? A simple question. Well, it's an elephant in a china shop. You see, you cannot put it otherwise. These are people who just don't filter their thoughts, desires, and so on. Again, it's personal alpha that wants to manifest itself right now. And merely people who live in an unfavorable environment. And obviously in the neighborhood or the house they live in, the level of CO2 has already gone beyond the limits. And they're breathing bad air. As it is said, CO2 increase to critical levels reduces our mental activity and ability to think clearly.
And in May of this year, we broke the record for the level of CO2 because it has already reached just over 419 parts per million.
There you go. Tatiana, may I ask you a question? Are you saying that soon we will all forget how to think?
Perhaps it's just to make us move a little faster, while we can still make at least some decisions.
How many parts are left?
Actually, I think the irreversible consequences start already at about 426, but 419 is sort of an average indicator.
Negative consequences in the human body, yes.
And somewhere it's already off the charts for sure.
Off the charts, right.
Yes, so we have to hurry, that's for sure, because we know that we won't be able to.
Later, we simply will not understand. Do you know what the funniest thing is? I have a feeling that many people indeed have been already oversaturated with CO2 because they don't understand elementary things. They simply sit and say, you do it, while we sit and wait. Meanwhile, a lot of people are spending their own time and money trying to do something for the survival of all humanity. Well, that's true. Let's look at our people of Alatra. After all, they are the real heroes of today. Again, they are under constant stress, under constant overload. Plus a lot of criticism is poured on them. From whom? From those very slackers and idlers. And, let's put it so, from those who sit on a couch and merely criticize, but do nothing for people, and will not do anything. Why? Because, and we have to admit this as humanity, that in reality, because of the consumerist format, we have also brought up a certain part of society as parasitical. They really don't want to do anything even for themselves. So, if their number is overwhelming, and we don't know how many of such people are there, then there is no prospect of building the creative society, while it's the only format where we can really all unite And whereby using modern technology, we will be able, let's say, to survive as a population, to survive as humanity. It's not just, well, like some people say, it's necessary to reduce the current population by 95% so that only 5% is left, then something will change. No, my friends. I will digress a little bit. Even if 2% of us remain, we will not change anything anymore. If it were 30 years ago, yes, humanity would have 100 years, maybe even a little more, if we were reduced to at least 500 million. As of today, nothing can be changed. It is already serious information. It means that there is no sense in reducing our number as humans. That will not solve anything. Even those 5% or 2% left, no matter how many, will exist for an extremely short period of time. So, we have to approach this seriously, and as the entire society. And here, it's no longer possible to shift responsibility onto those whom we elect. Again, why? Simply because they are busy thinking about what to feed us with, how to survive, how to withstand the current geopolitics, and how not to let the country as a whole, meaning you and me, collapse. They do have an enormous responsibility, and so forth. There is no need to criticize them. We elected them ourselves, and they are merely human beings, the same as we are. They only have a much greater workload and responsibility than any of us. And to shift all our salvation onto them, well, what will they do if we don't want to and if we don't act? How will they do it? Will they force us? Force us to do what? To become humans? Nothing will work. Because what will any violence mean? A consumerist format. We cannot build the creative society through violence. While in order for us to do something, we should consolidate all of our human resources. You see, there is such a notion as an egregore. In this case, an egregore is understood as our overall potential, the overall human potential which we can invest together in order to resuscitate our planet, repair our house, and for all of us to survive. That's the way it is. We are talking precisely about the egregore. There is no other way to do that. And again, when 10 years ago we were literally 7 billion, we wouldn't have managed to do that. Now we can do it. Why? Because there are 8 billion of us. We are much stronger, smarter, and more technologically advanced than we were 10 years ago. We can withstand these challenges, but we can only withstand them together. And in order to join hands together, we need to give up many things: foolishness, stupidity, selfishness, alpha, and pridefulness. These trifles that will disappear anyway, in fact. But the question is, will they disappear together with us, or will they disappear without us in humanity? Humanity will remain, but the stupidity will disappear. Or will it disappear together with us, together with humanity? It's up to us to decide, my friends. And the issue is serious. Unfortunately, these are not jokes.
Exactly. Because today one understands that even scientists sound the alarm, and their biggest frustration is that they say what we are recording is unprecedented.
Thank God only 30 years had passed, and they started sounding the alarm, right?
Right.
While we were laughed at for 30 years. And excuse me, for 10 years Allatra has also been laughed at. After all, literally 10 years ago, we were laughed at. And those very scientists were telling us, well, how can it be? What you describe will happen 150 years from now at best. Guys, where are those 150 years?
Yet now they cling to Allatra as their saving straw because they understand that it's the only organization of this kind.
Not all of them.
That at least raises these issues as well as informs people.
In fact, if we speak honestly, Allatra is really the only organization in the world that, let's say, doesn't ask for grants from anyone and doesn't just squander them. It doesn't spend public money or anything else. Allatra is an association of sensible, intelligent people from around the world whose consciousness is not narrowed down to the point of consumerism. They are broad-minded people. Today, it's exactly the people of Allatra who spend their own money and time and stay up at night in order to bring information to as many people as possible. But that's where a paradox arises. People do their best. They convey, but at some point information stops. Why? Because again, There are couch experts and don't give a fig type of people, pardon the expression. But in fact, don't give a fig people, this is scary. Because of them, all of us can simply die. And it's true. Because there are people who are indifferent to everything, even to their own lives and the lives of their children. Well, I don't know how to justify it, you see, when it's obvious what is already happening. If back then, yes, we talked and one could argue with it, now one cannot argue with it anymore. Everything we warned about is happening. It's already being discussed.
Perhaps people simply don't feel this threat somehow. Maybe we should talk about it, about what's going on today. First of all,
You know, I don't know whether they feel this threat or not. It seems to me that they are incapable of even thinking about it. It's either so much degradation has occurred in people, or they get used to shifting responsibility onto someone to such an extent. But something has happened. If we don't resolve this problem, we're in trouble. We will fail to unite. If we fail to unite, we won't have aggregate potential and we will remain in the consumerist format. While in the consumerist format, everything is finite.
also these artificial intelligence technologies that facilitate our life and make it so much easier, at the same time form a bubble of filters around us, let's say a certain kind of information field,
Yes, there is such a thing.
that we need to overstep.
Yes.
After all, people literally, by typing in some of their search queries or choosing some preferences, form a certain information environment around themselves,
Right.
which you just need to get through. Meanwhile, it is so important to inform people, because today the information that bots pick up and spread is also being highly distorted.
Well, you see, again, yes, there is such a thing. You are right. They are trying to smooth things over. Again, let's take that very seismology. Earthquakes sometimes reach magnitude 7.4 to 7.5, or even higher nowadays. A higher magnitude is rare so far. So far, thank God, we have not crossed 8. Though a mere step is left, and the earthquakes keep increasing. When the first sensors indicate 7.4, and it's already over 7, the frequency is already approaching 8, but then you look and the sensors indicate 7.4. Then after a while, we are shown 6.8,
Right.
6.5, and it starts going down. Why?
They've been adjusted.
A manual adjustment takes place, and it's obviously manual. A sensor indicates the facts, but then they adjust it all. A lot of what happens is immediately removed or not shown at all. Why? So as not to shock the population. But friends of mine, what is better? To tell the truth, or to ignorantly wait for the agony of our planet to start? And we will observe this, because we will still exist at the time, yet we will not be able to do anything anymore. What is the right and the best way to act in this case? Again, the point is that today we need to talk about it. We need to inform people, because tomorrow there will be no one to either talk or listen about it. People do not understand simple things. Again, they might say that we are exaggerating. Isn't it so? After all, in many people's heads, a thought may slip in that we are some kind of an apocalyptic sect, where we just talk about the end of the world or something else, in order to gather people around us. Guys, why would we need people to be around us if none of us gets anything except headaches and spending our own money and time? We are not a priestly organization to accumulate everything, profiteer from it, or climb some social ladder and boss everyone around. No. Allatra is an association of volunteers. Everyone here is free. One can join if he wants to, or he can leave if he wants to, and so on. There is one goal and one idea. The very idea and essence of Allatra itself is precisely to really preserve life, both literally and figuratively. To preserve life not only for ourselves, but for all humankind. This is what Allatra was created for, what the creative society was created for, and why a huge, tremendous amount of various work has been done over many years, hard work that has been done by people. Again, not for the sake of pleasing themselves or something. Isn't that so? But someone again, say, had his pride hurt, was looked at in a wrong way, wasn't given a position or something else. What positions? No one here has positions. There are no bosses here. Here, you have to roll up your sleeves and work. There is no room for ambitions here, because your lives and the lives of your children are at stake. And unlike others, we understand that. And today, we can already talk about this, you see? 2 years ago, or even a year ago, we couldn't talk about it. Why? the situation was different. No, not in politics. The situation in the world was different. When we started talking openly in 2014, when we were already formed as an organization, we started talking more publicly about this, about climate change, about what was happening. We warned, because we knew that 2015 would be a pivotal year. They laughed at us and immediately branded us an apocalyptic sect. That's all you can talk about, and so on. A sect? Okay, a sect. An apocalyptic one, so be it. You know, honestly, I'm sorry, but I don't care who thinks what and who says what about me. You can say what you want, but let's just unite together, save our world, and then you can play around and enjoy as you please. But in order for us to save it, we need to unite. It is the only way to build a creative society. There is simply no other alternative, friends. Simply none. Yes, I understand that they will search for various solutions on how to try to build a creative society from a consumerist format and at the same time retain power, retain their alpha, and so on. My friends, I'll tell you simply, either we, all together, really begin to understand that the world is on the brink. Nowadays, everyone is already talking about this. We are not talking about economics, geopolitics, wars, and so forth. We are talking about our planet, which we, as humanity, have eaten, destroyed, poisoned, and basically killed. But we can still do something. So, either we take it on and do something, but all together, or let each of us mind our own business. There is no other alternative. Let's solve our unresolved problems. Someone hasn't planted a tree yet. Someone hasn't finished building a house. Well, let's finish building it. Let's plant trees. Let's finish building houses. I don't know for whom. Maybe for tardigrades. Well, surely mold is likely to survive. Yet, not for long. Well, when they fly to Mars, they will tell us what is there. And we will find out what is there. But there are no houses or trees. That's for sure. You know, some people are jealous of those who want to go to Mars. That there are heroes who will see another planet, a dead planet like Mars. They shouldn't be jealous. Soon, we will all see it together if we do nothing. We don't have to fly anywhere. We are killing our planet, our own planet. Isn't that so? Unfortunately, this is true. We have just touched upon waste. This is scary. And how much emission is generated, right? I mean, as a result of our activities, how much do we pollute both the soil and the atmosphere? To what extent it all no longer functions as it was supposed to?
Today, air pollution is the world's fourth biggest killer because every 5 seconds someone dies from it.
Right now.
Yes.
This is only from air pollution. Meanwhile, in fact, the killers that rank first are the cardiovascular system and all the rest. And what causes this? What is their cause?
That very cancer, it seems.
That very cancer.
And let's look at that very radiation, those very cosmic rays, galactic cosmic rays.
Again, yes. Now, Tatiana touches upon another very interesting topic. So, my friends, we can talk endlessly about what we have done. Again, the cosmic radiation that passes through. Again, weakening of the magnetic field by 9%, what a trifle, merely 9%.
What about the South Atlantic anomaly?
Exactly.
It is weakened there by another quarter and keeps spreading, and by 2034 it will reach the hemisphere according to forecasts.
And scientists already officially say that by 2034 it will reach the entire hemisphere, and it will be impossible to live there anymore. Why? Because there will be so much radiation. Look, it's not us who say this, not us, the sectarians. It's your scientists who say this, friends. I am not addressing you, the people of Alatra. Forgive me, my friends. I am addressing our critics, those who sit on the couch and say, "What are you telling us?" It's not us who tell you that. Your scientists tell you. Think about it. In 2034, half of the globe will start migrating to the other hemisphere. Will it be a peaceful migration? Are you ready for that? Will the consumerist format handle it? A simple question.
If even now many people, the majority, no longer have means for subsistence.
That's the problem. I am not even talking about ocean acidification, which has already occurred. What is ocean acidification? Ocean acidification, for you to understand, is a decrease in the ocean pH. And there are a lot of places in the ocean where no one can live at all, meaning ocean animals do not live there anymore.
Dead zones.
These are dead zones. There are already quite a lot of them, and more and more of them are emerging. The acidification of the ocean is increasing. The ocean's temperature is rising. The ocean is no longer able to retain oxygen. And already, in some places, instead of emitting oxygen, the ocean starts emitting CO2. Okay, let's take the forest. CO2, a classic example, is forest. Not many people know that forests, your scientists, my friends, have studied that Brazilian forests emit more CO2 than they absorb.
That's unexpected.
It turned out to be unexpected.
Although there is such a picture in one's head that the main thing, yes,
A picture, Tatiana says, that there is a
a
forest,
forest feeds us.
and it must absorb carbon dioxide and give us oxygen. But it turned out to be exactly the opposite. Let's take, again, those very relict forests. After all, these trees have been growing for thousands of years in order to form. Those were kind of the main. Let's put it this way, our ocean is our lungs, and those were the alveoli of our lungs. So, by 2015, we had destroyed 50% of these forests. If we calculate this, taking into account the progression of our consumption, again, your scientists say that by 2030, a maximum of 10% will be left, if there are any forests left at all. While everything else, what is planted somewhere, something else, yes, it is fine, but it is incomparable with natural relict forests. How much is the taiga being destroyed today? Plus fires. How many forests are burnt out?
Those very acid rains.
Then acid rains and everything else is already emerging. Just take a realistic view of what's going on. Unfortunately, there is no. That very Google shows a satellite map of our planet with a several years delay. If it showed it live, we would see how everything is changing, how much we are destroying our planet. Again, we come to those very cities. We started with them, then digressed a little, and now we are coming back again. What are cities, and why are they metastases? Imagine billions of tons pressing into a single point. Not only are cities billions of tons, as a rule, there are also reservoirs next to them, which are also billions of tons. Billions of tons here, billions of tons there. It's all in one point, and it all presses on the crust. As a rule, scientists used to tell us, it cannot affect. Well, how can this affect?
Civilization does not affect the deformation of the Earth's crust in any way, yes.
In no way, yes.
They used to tell us until recently.
But they don't say it anymore.
Well, we already, yes.
We talked about this 30 years ago and 10 years ago. And you know, it's only the second year now that information has started to appear, like, yes, it turns out that our cities, not even megalopolises, but just rather big cities, affect a lot. They affect the crust, they affect the lithosphere, they do affect this. It turns out that the constant pressure, plus the temperature regime, plus they get in the way of the wind. It's like new mountains that appeared out of nothing. It turns out that this affects our planet very much.
Even technological seismicity is also related to
Everything in the world. What about the technological one? It's due to the production of hydrocarbons and everything else.
yes, all this mining industry.
And in fact, it's true. How to tell you, friends? Well, if you want to, you can browse it and take a broader look for yourselves. Tatiana and I can talk about this for a long, very long time, because we have really started it all very seriously since long ago.
Even that basic, land use. After all, it turns out that we, people, have decided to rearrange this. There were forests here.
How many times?
Now there will be pastures here.
We turn forests into pastures, and we turn pastures into cities.
Yes, and as of today...
Just a simple example, friends. We have 15% of the world's swamps left. Of the swamps that were all over the world. Just to make it clear, we won't be able to survive without swamps. Swarms play a tremendous role. So, we just took
Our filters.
a simple question. Our liver. We have reduced it to 15%. Only 15% of our liver is left. Will we be able to live as we did before? Considering that we rearrange the kidneys and spleen and expect our body to operate normally at a time when it is undergoing enormous intoxication and when we are constantly overloading it. And instead of treating it, we keep loading it. And at this time our body has cancer with a lot of metastases. What is the perspective? Tell me. These are the realities of today, so that you look at things sensibly. Many will again say, "Why are you scaring us again?" We are not scaring you, we are telling you. But what is the way out? The way out is the creative society. We are not going to tell you about the creative society. We have been talking about it for 2 years. Watch, there is a lot of information. And what the real advantage is, and why the consumerist format is a path to nowhere. But we, humanity, have only 2 paths. Either a path to nowhere, with the patient I just described, or, the creative society, where there is indeed a chance for every person. For all of humanity, first and foremost. We have no other option. Again, why is what is possible in the creative society impossible in the consumerist format? I'll give you a simple example, friends. FFGs, meaning fuel-free generators with an efficiency greater than 1. Many people have heard about them, many know about them, and so on. It's not science fiction anymore. They already have them in America. However, they don't sell them. They merely sell the electricity they generate, and they are the only ones who are allowed to produce them. It doesn't mean that they were just invented. They have always been there. Almost always, at least for 100 years. This is just to make it clear. So, just imagine, if we introduce this FFG, it's very convenient. Imagine that you have a little device at home, and it fully supplies, let's say, your house. It generates 150 kilowatts of electricity per hour, including heating, air conditioning, and other utilities. That's great, isn't it? Or a 50 kilowatt unit for your apartment.
It is convenient.
It is.
Yes.
It is convenient. Everyone will agree it is convenient. People say it would be great if they existed. Guys, they have always existed, and they still exist. There is no problem with them. Do you know what the problem is with your life? If we introduce FFGs now, all the hydrocarbons kind of become irrelevant. Again, generation of that very power, it's nuclear power, plus we have hydropower,
Wind power.
solar power, then thermal power plants. It all becomes a thing of the past. Now think about how many families would become jobless if we merely introduced FFGs under the consumerist format. From a cleaner at a gas station, a regular gas station, where you fill up your cars. There are cleaners, there are gasoline attendants there. There are those who stand at the cash registers, to logistics personnel, those who transport this gasoline, those who make the gasoline, those who extract these hydrocarbons. These are millions of families, millions and millions of families. They all become jobless, so they cannot buy goods from those who produce them. That's millions more families without jobs. Millions and millions of families means billions. How are we going to live? That's the main reason why FFGs are not introduced. And not because someone will become poorer, or oligarchs will become poorer. They will become poorer on one thing and richer on another. That's not the point. The point is in us, that we will have nothing to eat. As of today, yes. The issue is acute with that very artificial intelligence, which will take jobs from us. Yet, there are a lot of other issues. Introduction of FFGs in the creative society will be acceptable to everyone. From the environmental perspective, and again, no one will lose their job. And even those who don't have one won't become poorer. A simple point. That's why it is the creative society. But what do we get in return? In return, we will get energy sources that will exceed even the capacity of all humanity combined. The amount of power humanity has generated over its entire history is nothing compared to even one device. There are no such numbers. Why? Because an FFG is capable of extracting and generating as much power as we need at any point of the universe. I emphasize, not only on Earth. It was used. Well, that's already the history of the past. Let's not touch it. So, friends, it turns out that what is acceptable and favorable in the creative society is fatally dangerous in the consumerist format. That's why we say that building a creative society is the only option. But in order to build it, all of us need to unite. Even with those who criticize us, because without them we can do nothing. We need to unite with those who want to do nothing and lie on a couch, with those who shift responsibility. Well, let's say, with everyone. Why? Because we are all humankind. And in order for us to build one united civilization and really be able to withstand the present-day challenges, these catastrophic challenges, it's a problem which humanity has never faced before, and we must solve it and get through it. We have only two paths. Either we solve this problem, or we don't solve this problem. If we don't solve it, we cease to exist. This is no longer a fairy tale. This is already being talked about openly everywhere. That's why there was this statement. It was about the economy, but the man said it right. All of us, people, are in the same boat. We are floating down the river, and excuse me, there is a waterfall ahead. And in order for us not to fall off this waterfall, we must all unite and row in the opposite direction. We can't stay afloat. We can survive, but only if we all row together. Really, all together, not passing our oars to others, because this is our life, and we must fight for it. And our children's future depends on how well we row. It's for their sake. If you don't want to row for your own sake, then let's row for the sake of your near and dear ones, for the sake of your friends and loved ones. But we have to row together in the same direction. Then we will have a chance. If we fail to unite, then this is our destiny. And humanity is indeed standing over the abyss. We have one step left. If we can join hands, we will be able to turn around and change a lot. If we fail to join hands, there is only one thing left for us to do, to take the last step and just fall into the abyss. But believe me, on the way down, everyone will realize that we were right and what should actually have been done. But when we fly down there, we won't be able to do anything anymore. There is a point beyond which we will be unable to do anything. A simple example. Even if we remove all humanity from our planet now, if we stop all our nuclear plants and all our factories, nothing will change. The situation is still... This flywheel that we have spun will destroy our planet anyway, even without us. Therefore, we must change the situation drastically. Otherwise, we will really just fall down off this cliff. But the people of Allatra at least have an advantage. They at least know where to fly, while the rest will just fall down. There is a point here too, but that's a different topic. But in general, we must do everything to survive, of course. You see? Another advantage of the creative society is that... I'll just give a simple example, so that everyone understands, even those for whom the environment is very poor and there is too much CO2. I'll put it in layman's terms. In the consumerist format, the highest value is money. But in the creative format, the highest value is human life. Yes, my friend, human life. Yours, your children's, your mother's, and our lives, the lives of all people. And that's what it is built on. We begin to approach things in a different way. We will be able to think in a different way. We will be able to distribute everything in a different way. We will be able to produce everything in a different way. And we will have a chance that we will be able to implement, but we will be able to implement it jointly. That's the point. Or again, everything remains as it has been. We will live as we used to. The sun is still shining. When you go outside, The sky is blue and the grass is green. Why change anything? We can do it this way too. Again, it's up to us to decide. Friends, our choices will define everything. But remember one thing. We, who are living now, are the last generation. We're either the last generation that exists in the hell of the consumerist format, and the first generation to enter the paradise of the creative society. Or we're the last generation that lived in the paradise of the consumerist format and will enter the hell of that reality which awaits us tomorrow in the same consumerist format. It's up to us to decide whom to be, friends. Do you know what I would like to say? That in the future, regardless of the course of events, no matter which path we choose, there will be neither poor nor rich among us. All of us will be equal, but in one case, there will be a wonderful world, while in the other case, all of us will be equalized by the fate that we will determine. Exactly we, ourselves, through our indifference and inaction. And all of us will be equal. It's up to us to choose and to decide which path to follow. The choice is up to us, but the choice is up to everyone. If we don't convey this and do not awaken the entire humanity, we will not solve anything. We won't be able to do it on our own. In order for us to be able, let's say, to sail away along our river in our boat from that waterfall, we should all row together. This is important. The time of egocentrism has passed. It's time to unite. It's a wonderful time. It's time for everyone to mature and treat one's life responsibly. It's time to choose who you are, a human or an animal. If you are a human, you are a part of our entire civilization, the entire humanity. If you are an animal, then without you, we will become animals too. And the choice is up to everyone, whom to be, and whether we will live or not. You know, like in the classic, to be or not to be. And everyone makes this choice now, every one of us. Or doesn't make it. But the outcome will be according to our choice, according to the choice of each of us. And it will be inevitable. This will happen whether we want it or not. And now, people already speak of this openly. There is at least something good. At least the fact that they started telling the truth a little bit, because they still do not tell the whole truth. You know, this is such a situation, like when physicians know that a patient has a month or 2 months left at most, and they warn his relatives and friends, warn the patient himself. They say, but there is still a chance, something still can be done, but treatment is expensive and uncomfortable. His relatives say, what for? He actually looks so fresh, he still runs well and everything else. And the patient himself swaggers, saying, oh, you are mistaken, I feel wonderful. This is the situation that we have now. When we are terminally ill, but we are making plans for subsequent years. Yet, will there be those years? That's the question.
Thanks God the truth is already being voiced, because in order to change the world, it is necessary to at least see this world.
Do you know what is good? It's good that this truth already sounds not only from us,
Right.
but also from those whom people elect, as well as from scientists whom people regard as authorities.
All that's left is for us to admit that we are really rolling into an abyss and simply understand that this negative scenario is not fully written yet. All of us still have a chance to preserve this humanity, to preserve the lives of each of us.
The scenario has been written, but, thank God, so far we have 2 scenarios, and we are choosing between the first and the second one. Yet, what we will choose depends on people, on how humane they are, and whether they will have, let's say, enough wits to understand and to make the right choice. That's already a question, but we will see it. In any case, time flies by fast. And you know what the funniest thing is? Time has started flying even faster. last year, just as it was written in the Bible, right?
For the sake of the chosen ones, those days will be shortened.
Yes, and the days have been shortened. To this day, no one can explain why. After all, the globe used to rotate with deceleration, and this complies with all the laws of physics. But then hop, and last year it accelerated.
That's why apocalyptic scenarios are now being voiced by scientists as well. Because nobody knows what the implications are for the future and whether this trend will continue.
Of course it will. Yes, it will. These are no longer jokes. But it is just one of the signals out of a great multitude of signals, isn't it so? No, there are plenty of signals of this kind coming from all sides, no matter where you look.
Our planet is already behaving like a consumer. It takes without giving. We already know that the heat exchange has been disrupted.
Yet the planet is the same as we are. But how else is it supposed to behave?
We take more heat energy than we give.
I'm sorry, but for how long have we, humanity, been constantly taking and giving nothing? No, we were taking what is good and giving what is bad. We were killing the planet. We, there is such an example. Friends, excuse me, but I will give it. We behave like parasites inside a dog. We devour it from inside and just kill it with our toxins. And when it is already lying and whining, that's already the end. But we continue swaggering and saying, so what? It is still warm, we can still eat it. So, we are in the same state now. We, people. Are we actually parasites? No, friends, we are not parasites. It's just that the worst part now predominates in us. We are dual. There is a worse part and a better part in us. Now our worst part dominates the better one, while it should be vice versa, and it depends on us whether it will be so or not. This is also true, and everyone feels and understands this. It's just that sometimes we make a different choice, not the one we need and not the one that can save us. But the time has come to tell the truth and to make the true choice, to really become a hero. The question is whether we will have enough courage. I hope we will. Otherwise, what's the point of all this? Isn't it so? We will see. And here, of course, games are no longer appropriate. Yet, there is a positive point as well. So far, it is too early, but a little bit later. We will say when. You may bravely take out huge loans, because there will be no one to repay them to. So, my friends, I have a simple suggestion. Let's actually live in such a way so as not to be forced to take out non-repayable loans, knowing in advance that there will be no one to repay them to. Do you know what is bad about this? There will be no one to pay them either. This is also the point. Our topic is sad, Tatiana. We should have better talked about something good. But I understand that this should also be discussed. So excuse us, friends, if we have slightly ruined your mood by telling the truth. However, the time of truth has come. Without truth, we will not survive. We have not exaggerated. No, just note, we have told you almost nothing scary. If we would have told you even 50% of what we ourselves know. But it's better for you not to know that. You see, knowledge multiplies grief. Especially when you understand that there is a chance, but due to someone's laziness, due to someone's unwillingness, due to someone's alpha, lazy alpha. We are playing, like in a casino. We are staking life. This is wrong. Life is not a stake. It is life. There is nothing more valuable, because without life, everything is meaningless. Let's begin with what is simple, with the simplest things. Just to look at things broadly, to look reasonably, to look at reality, the reality of today, without illusions, just the way it is. And let's learn to tell the truth at least to ourselves. Then it will stimulate us to teach this to others as well. If we have time, believe me, life is much more beautiful than what awaits us. Let's begin with what is simple, to simply love each other. Thank you for being with us. And excuse us for the sad news, but this is true. Thank you, Tatiana.
Thank you very much, Igor Mikhailovich.
Thank you too, friends. Thank you all. Those who understand the present-day situation, who don't sleep, do their best, and act. Lots of thanks to really the best people of this world. Thank you for being there, and thank you for being with us. Thank you, friends. Let's hope that tomorrow the sun will rise just as it rose today, and that all of us will see this. Wish you all the best.